A federal judge in Florida has scheduled a hearing for tomorrow to decide whether to unseal the affidavit used to justify the search warrant for Trump's Florida home. So far, the Department of Justice has advised against it, arguing it could compromise what they are calling an ongoing criminal investigation. On top of serving what they've referred to as a roadmap for the current criminal investigation, there's also concern from DOJ lawyers regarding the witnesses involved. Court filings on Monday read in part this: information about witnesses is particularly sensitive, given the high-profile nature of this matter and the risk that the revelation of witness identities could impact their willingness to cooperate with the investigation. Disclosure of the government's affidavit at this stage would also likely chill future cooperation by witnesses whose assistance may be sought as this investigation progresses, as well as in other high-profile investigations. Meanwhile, the former president's lawyer called for the names of witnesses to be released through the unsealing of the affidavit and even implied those names should be leaked.
The president's position, the same as what I would advise him, is to ask them to uncover everything so that we can see what is going on. I understand the witness protection issue, but at the same time, these witnesses are truly not going to be concealed for very long. That's just not the nature of the DOJ and the FBI, and unfortunately our country. There's always leaks. I've dealt with that even with, local law enforcement. There's leaks when there shouldn't be. So I think it's in the best interest so that the country can get comfortable to see what the basis was.
The hearing for whether to unseal the affidavit is scheduled for 1 p.m. tomorrow. We'll be watching that, Willie.
We're also getting some new reporting on who exactly the FBI interviewed before seizing those documents from Mar-a-Lago. The New York Times is reporting White House counsel Pat Cipollone and his deputy Patrick Philbin spoke with agents about the boxes of sensitive information inside Trump's home. They are the most senior people connected to the former president, known to have been interviewed by the Justice Department. Philbin met with investigators in the spring. It's not clear when Cipollone spoke to them. Sources tell the Times Philbin tried to help the National Archives recover those materials, but the former president repeatedly resisted, telling several advisors, quote, "It's not theirs, it's mine." End quote.
Aye.
Let's bring in congressional reporter for The Guardian, Hugo Lowell, with the caveat, Hugo, that those, of course, are not the documents belonging to the president. They belong to the United States government and to the National Archives. What do we know about what Cipollone and about what Philbin, the White House counsel, and his deputy may have said to the FBI that prompted the FBI to say, oh, we've got to get into Mar-a-Lago and find those boxes?
I mean, we don't know exactly what they told the FBI, but certainly the sense is Pat Philbin, who was the deputy White House counsel, and also Trump's designated liaison with the National Archives, certainly realized this was going to be a problem. I mean, Pat Philbin was involved from the very end of the administration trying to get all these documents back to the National Archives, was very unsuccessful in doing that. But the fact that Philbin knew how records management was going on in the West Wing in those final days, I think suggests that he had intimate knowledge about how these documents were being, bandied about the West Wing. And so he might have even realized he might have potential legal exposure if he wasn't forthcoming to the FBI and told them what he knew about what Trump was keeping down at Mar-a-Lago.
As we try to sort through how the FBI, how the Justice Department understood that it would be worth pursuing a warrant to get into Mar-a-Lago, some people want to see this affidavit. There'll be a hearing on that later. So is your sense, for me talking to people who work in law enforcement and people who are U.S. attorneys, they say it's very unlikely that an affidavit would be unsealed, especially with a case this high profile, because now you're revealing witnesses and you're revealing sort of the path that they've taken in their investigation?
Like, we've spoken to countless kind of former FBI counterintelligence officials and kind of former U.S. attorneys, and the resounding sense is if the Justice Department is asking a judge not to unseal these documents, it's probably not going to happen. They're not going to unseal an affidavit, especially one that shows the basis to get the search warrant. I mean, it presents the probable cause, right? It shows the evidence of a potential crime being committed. They don't want to release the names of the people who are cooperating with the FBI. They don't want to release the tactics and the strategies and the methods they're using. And so I think the likelihood that a judge in Florida is going to unseal this affidavit is very, very small.
And certainly part of the investigation, as myself and some colleagues wrote today, is the idea of how chaotic those final weeks in the White House were. Trump only, of course, admitted that he wasn't going to be president again as of January 7th. That left them only 2 weeks to pack everything up. That may have led to some of the mistakes, one of the angles being pursued. But Hugo, I want to ask you about, we were just watching the clip there of a Trump attorney on television. We know that from his previous impeachment trials, he has had trouble getting high-profile, high-talented lawyers to join his team. It's never quite been a group of legal all-stars. But he did just hire a Jim Trusty, who's a formerly of the DOJ's Organized Crime Section, to join his defense team. Tell us about Trusty, and is this showing that the level of concern in Trump's orbit is growing?
I think so. I mean, certainly great name, right? I mean, very, very apt for this particular investigation. But I think the addition of Jim Trusty, who, as you said, is former DOJ prosecutor, and also the addition of Evan Corcoran in recent days, like Evan Corcoran's a former assistant U.S. attorney, shows the seriousness that Trump world is giving these investigations. I think there is a real concern now that Trump may have real legal exposure. He may be potentially facing an indictment. And so there has been a real effort among people in Trump world, people like Boris Epshteyn, who has been putting this legal team together to really find good lawyers. And as you say, it's been an uphill struggle. But the fact that they added Jim Trusty, I think, is very significant.
So, Hugo, it's been a very busy week in this investigation. What happens the rest of this week? We've got the hearing, and what are the big news signposts that you're looking for to show us where this is heading?
I think in terms of a timeline, you're looking at kind of 2 to 3 weeks as the FBI kind of sifts through the volume of materials that they retrieve from Mar-a-Lago. They've got to get their taint teams to make sure there's no materials they inadvertently scooped up from Mar-a-Lago that's not covered by the search warrant, like, the passports that got picked up. Those have to be returned. But they also then can examine whether the documents pertain to specific statutes and whether the fact that Trump had these very sensitive government secrets down at Mar-a-Lago was a potential violation of crimes. And I think the FBI and the DOJ will be looking at that very closely in the weeks ahead. Of course, also, lawmakers expect to get a briefing from the Director of National Intelligence in terms of a damage assessment as to Trump's mishandling of these documents. And I think the story is very much still developing.